Welcome to our new episode of Holistic Wellness with House of Veda. Joining us is Dr. Ameen, a naturopath and functional medicine expert. Superfoods, organic food, traditional food, ancestral diet. What is it all about? Why is it so confusing? What exactly is an ancestral diet?
Ancestral diet is exactly what our great-great-grandparents ate, which was in perfect symphony, perfect harmony with the atmosphere. There is a concept called chrononutrition. Chrononutrition is actually something when, what, and how you eat, and that affects your overall health.
Do you think convenience has taken over consciousness when it comes to food these days?
Most importantly, we are using a lot of this microwave, which more or less completely destroys most of the nutrition in the food, which is very dangerous. Switching back to organic food, switching back to the traditional ancient food is very important purely because we are just avoiding all the like GMO food and all the abnormal, unnatural foods and going back towards the root. I always tell them a simple rule, like if your grandmother doesn't recognize a particular food,
Then don't have it.
probably you should avoid it. Countries like Singapore, when I travel there, I noticed that they have this traffic light indication on each and every food, right from green, yellow, orange and red. By looking at it, you already know that if it is green, you can eat it. If it is orange and yellow, it's warning. If it is red, just stay away.
What is it you think we should include in our day-to-day?
Opting for nutritionally rich organic ingredients and processing it in a traditional way of cooking is important.
Welcome to our new episode of Holistic Wellness with House of Veda, where we uncover Indian ancient food wisdom which is relevant now than ever. And today's episode is about ancestral eating and why it's time we bring it back to our plates. Joining us is someone who deeply understands the science behind our traditions, Dr. Ameen, a naturopath and functional medicine expert who believes in food is the first and most powerful form of medicine. Let's dive in. Superfoods, organic food, traditional food, ancestral diet. What is it all about? Why is it so confusing? Let's hear it from Dr. Ameen. Let's begin with the basics. We all talk about quinoa, kale, chia seeds, but what about ragi, bajra, and ghee? Dr. Ameen, what is your take on all this?
That's an excellent question, Raman. It kind of takes us right into the depth of the problem what we are facing today. Our ancestors, particularly, they were thriving on a diet that based on local environment, and it was rich in the so-called superfoods before they were even called superfoods. So that's their diet basically. Right now, for example, let's talk about millets. Okay, so they are like nutritional superhouses. And talking about millets, particularly ragi. You see, ragi contains almost about 3 times more calcium than milk. And it is rich in iron, it is rich in so many other nutrients, rich in fiber. It is very satiating. It kind of fills you so much. And this was the primary part of their diet. Like everyone was like eating ragi on day-to-day basis. And they were not only lean, they were very healthy. And diabetes and other issues what you're talking about today is like unheard of. And on the other hand, I also want to talk about kapli wheat. It's also called as emmer wheat. And this was the traditional wheat. Today we have this modern hybridized wheat that is very high in gluten. Like we are talking about, say, 15, 20 years back, gluten intolerance is unheard of. And today, every other person, we are talking about gluten intolerance. But then our kapli wheat, it is very low in gluten. And what gluten does is it gives you a lot of gas, bloating, indigestion. It affects your gut health. Whereas when you switch to kapli wheat, which was part of our traditional diet, which gives no digestive related issues, and it was good for your gut, and it is rich in fiber, it also kind of fills you up very quickly as well. So that was another element. The third part, our traditional diet was full of healthy fats, particularly cow ghee. They were all using it on day-to-day basis. That was the only known fat to cook. And today we have so many different refined oils and refined, seed oils, which is all completely devoid of any nutrition. And as well as these oils are connected to so much of cholesterol issues, high level of inflammation, gut-related issues. But our traditional ancient diet was based on ghee, which was actually rich in something called butyric acid. And this butyric acid was very important for healing the gut lining. So they never had any kind of ulcerations, irritations. And the reason why you will have to take the cow ghee on regular basis, particularly A2 cow ghee, is that it actually ensures, in nutrition, generally we have a group of nutrition called fat-soluble vitamins and fat-soluble nutrients. And if your diet doesn't have enough of healthy fats, particularly fats like A2 cow ghee, you don't absorb those nutrients. It basically kind of exits your body. So it is very important that include all these our traditional dietary elements into modern day diet. And that's one of the reasons why our ancestors have thrived, not just survived, thrived with so much of nutrition element into their diet. And like whenever I go back to my hometown, I meet all my uncles and aunts, and they're all in their 70s and 80s, who never heard about superfoods, who never heard about gut health, microbiome, probiotics, but then they eat the same traditional diet. And I see that in their 70s and 80s, they have like such sharp hearing, beautiful eyesight, sharp thinking, nice skin, and they're just eating their traditional diet, precisely, which is full of millets, and ganji, which is like porridge, and idli dosa, which is fermented food. What in the name of superfood, we are looking for these things today. So I personally believe that our traditional diet was already perfectly complete.
But we lost it somewhere.
Precisely.
What exactly is an ancestral diet? Do you think it's some fancy word, or is it something that our great-great-grandparents actually ate?
Okay, great question. Ancestral diet is not another fad diet, because nowadays we come across so many different terms: high protein, low protein, high carb, low carb. But ancestral diet is exactly what our great-great-grandparents ate, which was in perfect symphony, perfect harmony with the atmosphere. All right. For example, there is a concept called chrononutrition. So what is chrononutrition? Chrononutrition is actually something when, what, and how you eat, and that affects your overall health. And particularly, it also has a very big impact on something called epigenome. So what's epigenome? For example, your genes. For example, your parents and grandparents had diabetes. You tend to also have the same chances of developing diabetes, which means the genetics actually have loaded the gun. But the way you live, your epigenetics, your lifestyle actually pulls the trigger. All right. So that's what actually determines whether you're going to get diabetes or not. Now, eating what, when, and how really matters. Now, there is something called nutritional gap. For example, your grandparent, when they were living, there is so much of nourishment in our food. Like naturally, we all have to agree that the nutritious value of the food, what our grandparents ate, was so much higher, at least 3 times higher comparing to what we are eating today. And then to live today, the amount of stress, the amount of pollution we are exposed to, we require about 3 times more nutrition comparing to what our grandparents required. So this is something called nutritional gap. If you look at it, they ate 3 times more nutrition than today's food, and we require 3 times more nutrition than in order to live today, right? So this nutritional gap need to be filled, and the traditional ancestral diet is one of the very important cornerstone in order to fill this nutritional gap. All right, so thus we can actually thrive. So ancestral diet involved a lot of millets and whole wheat, so that naturally it was wholesome, and as well as it's very satiating on the other hand. And the second part is they used a lot of naturally A2 ghee, and as well as like cold press oils, comparing to the kind of poor quality oils, refined oils what we are using today. Precisely, so that's also kind of another factor. And thirdly, they ate a lot of probiotics in the form of fermented food. You look into their porridges, their pickles, and all these were very important, including the curds. These were a very important part of the traditional diet. And now, today we are looking into all these, new terms as in probiotics and gut health. And we are encouraging people to actually include all this as part of the diet. But primarily, when you look into it, this is the perfect diet. So ancestral diet is very effective when you actually overall look into it.
Right. So actually, and I also feel the quality of food that they had was, better that time. And now, I think with a lot of processing of food and everything, we don't get,
Precisely, you're right. In the name of processing, what we are trying to do is we are trying to remove all kind of essential fibers, and nutrients, minerals and everything, so that there is just primarily carb. And then in a way of adding just few of the nutrients what's been ripped off, and then it eventually reaches to the market. So when you eat these kind of food, they are pro-inflammatory, whereas the traditional ancestral diet is actually anti-inflammatory. All right. And this is where we start to face a lot of issues today. Most of the lifestyle disease, right from diabetes, obesity and high cholesterol and heart related issues, everything comes from just a simple element called processing. Processing food is the worst thing that has happened to our food industry.
So, Dr. Ameen, do you think convenience has taken over consciousness when it comes to food these days? I mean, our lives are so fast, so we want quick solution like 2 minutes ready food. So, do you think it's an issue these days?
See, the comparison of then and now is exactly how the convenience has actually thrown away the consciousness. And thus we are having so many health related issues. It always comes back to that. Like our traditional ancestors, they were always using earthen pot to cook, which was very slow to conduct heat. So the food is actually slowly cooked in order to retain most of the nutritious value in it. And also they were using a wholesome food always in order to preserve all the essential nutrients within that. And the third and more important element is they were always seasonal. They never ate anything which is out of the season. All right. Now coming back to today, and most importantly, we are using a lot of this microwave, which more or less completely destroys most of the nutrition in the food, which is very dangerous. And second, like even today, if you go to villages, after 8-9 p.m., you don't find any food. But in cities, it's 24/7. People can have access to any food at any point in time, which is in a way very, very dangerous. Because you see, food is information. All right, it just not only nourishes you, it's an information to your genetics. Like for example, by eating certain kind of food, like pro-inflammatory food, when you continuously eat that, the system basically gets into a panic and leads to elevated inflammation that leads to lots and lots of different kind of diseases, which is one of the very important elements as well. Now, I want to talk about the green revolution. So naturally, when there was a sudden population explosion, there was a big demand for more food. So in the process, what happened was that they were trying to only focus on increasing the yield per acre. And so what happened was nobody was caring for the earth. All right. We started using a lot of pesticides, a lot of fertilizers, a lot of chemicals. When we started utilizing all this, of course, your yield started to go up. But unfortunately, the quality of the nutrition in the food has gone tremendously down. All right. When that has gone down, and also second, there was an element called GMO, which is very familiar to many other people. It's called genetically modified organism. So when they started playing with the genetics of the food, as I told, food is information. All right. So when you actually eat this genetically modified food, although initially it didn't seem to have any issues, nowadays there is so much of food related allergies. There is so much of gut related issues. And you see, autoimmune disease, it's on all rise, all level, everyone suffers from this nowadays. It all kind of goes back to the genetically modified organism. So switching back to organic food, switching back to the traditional ancient food is very important purely because we are just avoiding all the like GMO food and all the abnormal, unnatural foods and going back towards the root. I always tell them a simple rule, like if your grandmother doesn't recognize a particular food,
Then don't have.
probably you should avoid it, because your grandmothers, they actually saw, like if at all you have to read the ingredients list in any particular food, that's already a warning sign by itself. And if there is anything more than 4 or 5 ingredients in a particular food, that's also another warning sign, like you should not go. For example, countries like Singapore, when I travel there, I noticed that they have this traffic light indication on each and every food, right from green, yellow, orange and red. By looking at it, you already know that if it is green, you can eat it. If it is orange and yellow, it's warning. If it is red, just stay away. And to my surprise, almost about 70% of all the food in a supermarket aisle is all red. But so where do they go? So literally they have to go back to their like fresh market in the morning where you need to look out for these kind of foods, and that is what is going to nourish you.
Right. So what do you think? I mean, if you could give me some examples of nutritional foods that we can include. So it could be yogurt, it could be, what do you think, like farm fresh produce, what is it you think we should include in our day-to-day?
Okay, ideally, you see, when you're looking into food, we can actually break it into two categories. One is macronutrients and the other one is micronutrients. When it comes to macronutrients, we have to start with carbs. So primarily right now it's maida or just normal wheat flour. So primarily the switch has to happen at this flour level. Okay, number one, opt for a good organic millet flours, or kapli wheat as I told earlier. So these are the healthier alternatives comparing to this. Now the second fat we are looking at. So what we are just using a refined oils. So instead look for ghee and look for organic cold press oils, which is actually like full of nutrients and full of vitamins, minerals, everything is actually infused in it. All right. And the third part, when you're coming into the proteins, and if you actually opt for all the right kind of organic healthy pulses, that also greatly helps. So those are the areas, the major switch has to happen at that level. Then what happens is, because you have switched to that kind of diet, the micronutrients are almost automatically becomes abundant in your diet. So I think those are the changes what need to be made.
So Dr. Ameen, what do you prefer, going organic or going traditional?
It's a very important question, Raman. And the answer is not either or, and I would say it's both. Now, talking about traditional diet, it is more of the way of, like eating unprocessed food, the way of traditional cooking, and eating seasonal food. So those are the important factors we need to take from the traditional diet. On the other hand, when you look into, like for example, as I told you, millet is a part of our ancestral diet, and we can actually choose to eat millet. But unfortunately, most of the millets produced today is fully sprayed with all the pesticides and chemicals. And although you are opting to eat a traditional diet, yet what you're actually buying is full of pesticides and chemicals, and it is actually made from the same soils that's completely devoid of any nutritious value. So opting for nutritionally rich organic ingredients and processing it in a traditional way of cooking is important. So that's why I'm saying combining these two are both very important. Now look into ghee. Like you can think that, okay, ghee is a traditional diet, so let me actually start using ghee. But then when you actually look into it, like all these cows are actually fed with grass that's totally sprayed with pesticides and chemicals. So what the cow does is, it's actually process all these pesticides and chemicals into its milk. And when you actually make a ghee, most of this poison is also fat soluble. So the ghee you get from the supermarket is actually full of these pesticides and chemicals, and no one knows about that. Now, when you actually opt for organic A2 cow ghee that is processed traditionally, now what happens is you have a best of both worlds. So that's why I say it's very important to eat a ancestral diet that is also based on organic, which is very vital. And I'm very grateful, like many brands such as House of Veda nowadays offering these choices, the traditional choices in the organic form, which is, I think, very, very valuable. And I have seen many clients, like for example, I have patients where they had like a lot of gut related issues, severe allergies, and all I do is I just move their diet into ancestral diet, which is organic based, and without nothing, their conditions start to improve tremendously. And I have seen it so many times, and I'm a very strong proponent of eating this way.
Right, and probably they don't need any medicine or anything.
Precisely, because as father of medicine, Hippocrates, he says your food is your medicine and your medicine is your food. Right. So you will have to look for nutrition in your food. And I think personally disease comes from two reasons. Like, as a cell, when you think about it, there are two things every cell in your body requires. One, it requires optimal nutrition, vitamins, minerals, enzymes. All these are very important to make sure the cell functions properly. The other side is the cell doesn't want any kind of poison, pollution. All right. So we need to keep cleansing the body as well. So when you're opting for this particular diet, it ensures that the cell is very well nourished, and also you're actually keeping all the bad stuff away from your diet, because I think 80% of poison enters your body from your mouth. All right. Everything else you can actually control. But if you control this, it's the main root cause of disease. So when you get rid of that, your optimal health is ensured.
That's so right.
Let me give you 5 pro tips that you can do today in order to optimize your health. And number 1, swap your carbs. Like instead of choosing traditional maida flour and the wheat flour, you'll have to switch to organic millet flours and organic kapli wheat. So these are definitely one of the greatest thing you can do, because the minute you do that, the risk for diabetes and cholesterol and all those issues tremendously drop. And you also tend to enjoy the food so much more because these flours are exceptionally delicious. The second thing, uh, choosing the right kind of fat, particularly traditional fat. So instead of all the refined bad oils, you can choose A2 cow ghee, which is one of the important elements. I do that regularly. On top of that, also the cold pressed organic oils, the seed oils, which are much superior, and they are anti-inflammatory. They nourish your brain, they nourish your gut, they nourish your joints. A phenomenal choice. The third one, you'll have to definitely include some fermented food into your diet, because I think fermented food gives you so much of probiotics and postbiotics, which is an important area of exploration as well. Postbiotics is nothing but your good bacteria, what they produce inside your gut, is also very important for your optimal health. So including things like pickles and curds and all this fermented food like porridge are very important in your diet as well. And the fourth one, eat seasonally and locally. You will have to eat according to the season. For example, if it is a mango season, please do eat mangoes. Don't go and look for apples and grapes when it is not in season. And second, look for what is produced locally. Go to your supermarket and see what is in abundance, and when you choose that, your body also gets that information. And last and finally, you also need to be aware about the kind of sweetness, the kind of sugars you are eating. If you are taking white sugar, it is completely devoid of any nutrition, and it is one of the most inflammatory promoting element in your diet. You can definitely replace it with organic raw jaggery and as well as honey, which are much superior and better alternatives to the sugar, and it adds such a great nutty flavor, and as well as it kind of adds more health to your overall life. So these are the 5 pro tips that you can implement right away to optimize your health.
Thank you so much for watching this episode till the end. We'll soon be back with another episode of Holistic Wellness with House of Veda, so stay tuned.